So hello and welcome back to Ankush Jain. Ankush Jain, who is a coach and a budding author. And Ankush, it'd be just really great to get a sense of your journey really as a coach. How did you start out? What happened for you?
Oh, there's the long version and the short version. I'll try and keep it in between somewhere. I got into personal development when I was 19, and I got hooked. And I kind of read all sorts of things, how to win friends and influence people, you know, Eckhart Tolle at some point, and the usual stuff, like feel the fear and do it anyway, Susan Jeffers. I read all this sort of stuff. And when I'd go to work, I'd be listening to audiobooks in my car. I was really fascinated by personal growth, personal development. And I hired an image consultant in New York, you know, years ago. I hired a speech elocution teacher, I guess you'd call her, for a year. I did that. Anything that I thought would make me better, right? And along the way, I did courses and hired a coach and things. And people would often say to me, you should do this for a living. You're really good. And I'd always be like, no, this is just for me. I don't want to do this for a living. And I was actually quite scared. But back in 2012, I had an insight. I was considering my next career move, and I couldn't think of the answer. I was really struggling. And then, the next day when you don't think about it, I had an insight, and I was like, why don't you coach? Why don't you help people with this? And it was like I'd never thought of it before. I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before, but it felt right. And about 10 days later, I'm signed up to some coach training, very expensive coach training for a year. And that was the start of my journey. And I got impacted massively straight away. I started coaching people straight away, just for free at the beginning. And I got, but the first couple of people started paying me without me asking them. And then I really struggled for about 6 months. It seemed to be like really easy to start off with, and then 6 months was nothing. And then I carried on training. My coach training was grounded in the 3 principles. After about a year or so, probably less than that, I started to work with clients. I started to get paid clients. And that was through reading a book that I'm sure many people know of called The Prosperous Coach by Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. And I connected with Rich online, and he started sending me some resources. So I heard him and this chap called Steve Chandler. And then fast forward another year, Rich and Steve came to London, and I saw them talk, and something about Steve really resonated with me. And I decided to hire him. And at that stage, my business had grown, but it was growing really slowly. And I was trying to do these packages, and charging a certain fee. And I was signing up clients, but I was like, it's going really slow, right? It didn't seem to be happening fast enough. At this stage, I was 2 years in, and I was nowhere near making enough money to quit my day job. And so, so I hired Steve. He actually said no. He said he was full. And anyway, I said, well, I sent him a couple of emails. I was like, what's it going to take for us to work together? So we kind of worked that out, and we've been working together now for nearly 3 years. And I felt like it was the first time that I had ever been coached. So I'd had coaches before. I'd done lots of training courses. But when I worked with Steve, I really got to see what a transformative coach is. I really got to be coached by a really good coach. And that's not to say, it was what some people call high flame. It wasn't like, really like hold my feet to the fire type coaching. It wasn't. It could be really gentle, but it was just the way that Steve showed up. And, we talk a lot in coaching about, selling the experience of coaching, right? People need to experience coaching to really understand what it is. And that was true for me. I realized now hadn't experienced coaching until I worked with Steve. And so I started to really learn from that. And it's funny because Steve is my business coach. He's not really a coach to teach me how to coach. And yet I got much better as a coach just by being coached by him, observing what he was doing, modeling some of that, just how much of service he was to me and to his other clients, how giving he was, how willing he was to say what needed to be said in a coaching session. So, that really helped me. And as well as, he's my business coach, really pointing to me pointing me to the fact that this is a relationship business, that I would grow my practice one client at a time, as opposed to what I felt I was observing from almost everywhere else, which was about being a marketer, getting more fans, getting more likes, growing my community, being more famous. That seemed to be the pull from everyone else. And then I feel like I had Steve really grounding me in one client at a time and doing really good work and really serving other people. And so now it's, I've been in nearly 5 years. I quit my job. I actually handed my notice in about a month after starting working with Steve. I started to see the shift so quickly. And I've been coaching now full time for 2.5 years. And I don't think I could ever go back. If I have to, I will, but I don't think I will. And I don't regret it for a second. It's been amazing. And, it's one of those things that at sometimes coaching has seemed very slow for me, and I've really struggled. I've had, ups and downs all over the place. But yet I'm a real big fan of incremental changes, because when I look back, now I'm such a different person than I was back in 2012. It really doesn't seem like I'm the same person.
So Ankush, you're really clear that coaching is a relationship business. What do you mean by that?
Well, coaching is a service, right? It's not a product. We're not selling a product. We're not selling us. We're selling a service. And so, the way you sell something that is very, very, let's be honest, coaching is expensive, right? It's a luxury service. Nobody needs this, right? It's not like a gas or electricity service to your house, which is a basic need, right? Or even internet connection, which is a service, which is a need nowadays. Coaching isn't like that. It's a luxury service. It's high end. It's tailored, and so this is all about relationship. Okay, we demand more so than ever a relationship with our gas, electricity, and internet suppliers, and when we don't get it, we get really upset and want to change. Well, this is so much more, high end, if you like, that it demands a closer relationship. I often say to people, when and this isn't true for everyone, but I think certain people resonate with this, that your hairdresser, you have a relationship with your hairdresser. They know you, they know your hair, you build up that rapport over time, and people often don't like to change hairdressers. Well, that's just your hair. Coaching is about your whole life. And people tell, it's not counseling, it's not therapy, but things come out in coaching sessions that they've not told their partners, they've not told their family. So it's a really intimate relationship, requiring a lot of confidentiality, a lot of trust between the two parties. And so because it's that kind of service, it has to be built on relationship, absolutely. And instead, this is the opposite of, well, what's the opposite of this being a relationship business? It's the opposite of it being kind of a marketing product business, where it's about, people need to have, you need testimonials, and you need social proof, people call it, and all this other stuff, because that takes us away from relationship. There are a lot of coaches out there who are very well known, who have sold, lots of books and things like that. But I wouldn't necessarily go and hire them. And I look at my own self. I've hired coaches or been on course in the past because of a personal connection. Either someone's referred the person or the coach or the training course to me, or I have some kind of relationship with that person, whether it's been connecting with them online, we maybe exchanged some messages, maybe I've been watching them and things like that. But it goes beyond just, oh, wow, this person knows what they're talking about, because that takes us away. A lot of people, coaches forget this. People are intimidated by us. And we forget that because it's us. How can you be intimidated by me? I'm just a person. But people see that role of coach and like, they're going to be able to read my mind. They're going to judge me. I'm not going to do it right. And we don't even think about it, but it's really true. And so we want to step away from anything that can make us seem intimidating. to a client. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of us are told to go, right? You know, so if you're someone who's got 1 million Facebook followers, right, that can be really intimidating to someone. They might want to be helped by you, but they might think, oh, I won't even reach out to him or her because they're probably too busy, they don't have enough time. And this happens to me right now. I get people contacting me and saying, I had an email just today and some guy said, I'd love to talk to you, but you're probably too busy, right? And I want to make sure that I'm as accessible to people as possible. Not in terms of, you know, I still have my working hours and I'm still a professional, but I don't ever want to be intimidating to people, because that kind of defeats the purpose of what I do. It defeats the whole point of me being a coach, right? Otherwise, I would, if that was the purpose, right, I would go and become an internet celebrity, create videos and stuff all the time, and make my money through YouTube adverts, which is a perfectly legitimate way of making money, and people do that. But being a coach and especially working with clients one-on-one, it's a very, very different thing. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And what I'm hearing there is about the, you know, this whole thing about building relationships really warms my heart, because for me, that's exactly what this is all about. It's all about relationship. And the other thing I think, which is great, is kind of implicit in what you're saying as well, is it's incremental. It's like it's one relationship at a time. It's not this big starburst of how many likes or followers have I got on Facebook. We're not talking about that. I think what we're talking about and what you're talking about is this much more grounded space of just being with another human being and being accessible to them, and for them to see that there's some value in that connection with you. Is that right?
Yeah. And you know what comes up for me, Liz, is that, you know, one thing that people don't talk about is that most people are struggling to make money from this business, right? Most people really struggle as coaches. Most people struggle to get clients. No one talks about it because, again, we're all stuck in this thing about trying to be impressive, right? As opposed to connecting and creating relationships with people. And, you know, I would say to anyone, if you're listening to this and you've not tried this relationship oriented approach, and your business is thriving, great. Ignore me. Go and do what you're doing. But if you're not, and you would like some more clients, try this out. You know, I really strongly believe this. And by the way, relationships, it's not just good for you directly to create clients. I mean, it's just good for you, because, like, Liz, you and I have created a relationship. You're not my client, I'm not your client, but we've created a relationship, and there's so many win-win possibilities, such as, you know, this video that we're recording. And, you know, I've done that with so many people in terms of creating a relationship with them. What comes out of it, who knows? You know, I might hire them to come in and teach a group of mine. They might do the opposite for me. I might interview them for my group. They might interview me for their community. It might be none of that, but the conversation may spark an insight for me or for them. You know, building relationships and coming from this point of view really is what this industry and being successful in this industry is all about, because it's also a very lonely industry. You know, if you're off on your own and, you know, you're taking a ruthless commercial approach to this, firstly, I don't think it's very effective, but secondly, it's really lonely. It's really, really lonely, and you'll be out on your own, and you know, it'll be less enjoyable, I feel, than building those relationships with other people who they're not competitors, they're peers of yours. And I really feel that, you know, I give referrals to, you know, to other coaches. If they can help someone that I'm speaking to and they're a better fit for them, I will give a referral, because I feel like we're all in this together. This all works together. And, you know, people think there are an awful lot of coaches. I remember a few years ago, before I went full time, it seemed to me like every single person and their dog was a life coach. And I was like, this is crazy. So there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people who call themselves a coach. In terms of good coaches, there aren't very many at all. Like, really, if I think about who is a coach in the UK that I think is world class, there are very few. Now, there probably are more than I know of course there are, but there aren't that many. Now, if you tell me how many coaches do you know in the UK? Yeah, I'd run out of paper. I'd make reams and reams of people. So, there is a difference. And I think we don't need more coaches. There are an awful lot of people call themselves coaches, but we could do with a lot more really good coaches in the UK, for example, and beyond. But if we just talk about the UK, we could do with a lot more really good coaches. And that helps all of us.
Ankush, it's been really fascinating talking with you today. If people want to find out more about you online, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
So probably the easiest portal, if you like, is my website, which is www.ankushjain.co.uk. I've got links to lots of social media there. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, and there's a ton of stuff about me on YouTube, but you can get it all through my portal.
Yeah, and I know that from interacting with you on social media and Facebook, you're really accessible, and you really do enjoy reaching out to people and building relationships. So I know that you would welcome people reaching out to you if they want to sort of connect further.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great, Ankush. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Liz.